Hey guys, welcome back to Star Wars Timeline. I'm Ben. Once again, I'm joined by my friend Steve Bardin. Stevie, how are you? What's going on, man?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing real good. Actually, before this got started,
hmm
I went to GameStop. Haven't been there in a minute,
hmm
and I found some figures that they had on sale. So I got a pretty good deal. I got an Ahsoka from the Clone Wars era.
Oh, nice.
Yep. And then a Black Series Moff Gideon from
Mm.
The
I
Mandalorian.
enjoy the Black series, but the retro series, could you put up
Bring it
that
up?
figurine just one
Sure.
more time? I
Yeah.
love the packaging design. This is so cool, guys. Look at the
Yeah.
artwork, man. I
I
really
know it.
enjoy these.
And I got both of them for $22.
hmm And
So I
guys,
was
I'm just going to make a statement here before we kick off with our podcast. I am not jealous one bit of that beautiful, beautiful figurine collection I see behind Stevie right over there. I'm not jealous. Okay? I'm just going to slowly and quietly, silently to myself salivate there. It's particularly the left-hand side to me that
Yep.
all of those figurines, the classic. Oh my God, man. Awesome
Yep.
stuff.
Love it. I love it.
Well, guys, today we're going to talk as two fans who may not necessarily share an opinion, but join in a healthy conversation, a sort of semi-debate. And the whole idea is to try to answer some seminal questions that we all as fans have. For example, what is a great story? How do we form our opinions? And why we disagree with one another? Which is the amongst the Star Wars fandom where some of the passionate fans, we enjoy things so much that we often have to like point out different things to one another. And I think my thesis, my arguments for today's discussion is that the devil is in the details. And I want to have a look at our discussion, how we react to small things. You know, what are specific details that we pinpoint and how we react to them, and that generates an overall impression. So obviously here we're focusing on films. We're going to primarily discuss the main movies, whatever came out, you know, in theaters. And I want to focus on cinematic storytelling and see how those films evoke an emotional response frame by frame. You know, I want to get a feel of our tastes very quickly, Steve, if you don't mind. If you could name your personal favorite science fiction film, a fantasy film, and let's say a historical picture.
Ooh. That's a, Obviously my favorite is I'm gonna have to go with a New Hope.
Mm,
That's my that's I don't really like much other science fiction other than
okay.
Star Wars, just because it's got that fantasy feel already
Mm-hmm.
built into it, which makes it incredible.
Mm-hmm.
For a fantasy film, I would have to probably say Lord of the Rings. That whole, I mean that or the Dungeons and Dragons film from 2003.
Mm,
That was pretty good too. A lot of
mm-hmm.
people forget about that one. And historical film or piece?
I know there's so many.
Well, I mean, I keep it pretty simple and like Saving Private Ryan for World War II, that whole just World War II history in general
Mm.
is intriguing to me. And what's crazy is my son is found an interest in it as well. So that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much a bulletproof, you
Yeah.
know, set of choices, especially when you talk about Saving Private Ryan. It's unanimously probably one of the greatest American-made films ever of all time.
Yeah. Oh,
Spielberg he's undeniable. On my end, and again, guys, we're doing these questions in a way kind of like set up our personal taste so you, the viewers, the audience, get to like get a feel to what Stevie's like, what his ideas are, what he enjoys, and also for me. For my science fiction, it would very likely fall between A New Hope and maybe, you know, Stanley Kubrick's Space Odyssey 2001. It was just a revelation to me when I discovered that film. In my film school, my professor suggested I watch it, just blew my mind. For a fantasy film, as much as I love my Lord of the Rings, and I did grow up, my father reading the Hobbit books for me as a kid in Russian, but I have to say it's got to be Ray Harryhausen's original Clash of Titans from 1981. It's just, that film is so profound for me. It nails the classical myth so well and so completely. And the magic of Ray Harryhausen's puppeteering and puppet stop motion animation is just timeless for me. I love it on an artistic level as a story. And a historical film, I tend to lean towards medieval or prehistoric
okay.
pictures. rather than something more modern. So I have to go with probably Braveheart.
Ooh,
That's Mel
yeah, that's
Gibson's. Like it's a
Gibson, yeah.
magnus opus of historical films. It's just unquestionable.
That was great.
Yeah, man. So guys, what I did next is, in preparation for our discussion today, I kind of pulled a couple of quotes that have to do with filming techniques generally from some world-renowned filmmakers, and sort of like kind of like food for thought, as we continue in our discussion. So the first one is this: sometimes the dream almost whispers, it never shouts. Very hard to hear. So you have to, every day of your lives, be ready to hear what whispers in your ear. That's Steven Spielberg.
I thought maybe it was Master Miyagi from Karate Kid.
Yeah, it kind of rhymes with that, right?
Yeah.
In a way, kind of like very Zen, very Eastern philosophy. Is kind of like you turn inwardly in order to understand, what the picture is, what the film is. Next one is, I have a strongly visual mind. I visualize the picture right down to the final cuts. I write all this out in the greatest detail in the script, and then I don't look at the script while I'm shooting. I know it all off by heart, just as an orchestra conductor needs to look at the score. When you finish the script, the film is perfect. But in the shooting, you lose about 40% of your original concepts. That's Alfred Hitchcock, a master craftsman, I would say also one of the greats. Also something to consider. And the final one, before I bore you guys with our quotations here. Something that you should take particular notice of is the fact that the best scripts have very few explanatory passages. Adding explanation to the descriptive passages of a screenplay is the most dangerous trap you can fall into. It's easy to explain the psychological state of a character at a particular moment, but it's very difficult to describe it through delicate nuances of action and dialogue. Yet it's not impossible. A great deal about this can be learned from a study of the great plays, and I believe the hard-boiled detective novels can also be very instructive. That's Akira Kurosawa, obviously one of George Lucas's greatest inspirations, internationally renowned filmmaker and artist.
That was good.
All right, let's dive right
stuff there.
Yeah. It's something just to consider, when you're trying to understand what the filmmaking process is, as audience, as a viewer, as a fan, but also as a craftsman, as an artist.
Right.
Jumping right into it, Rogue One. I decided not to go with a set of trilogies of films. We're going to start with this one. First scene I wanted to look at is we were on the verge of greatness, the introduction to the movie. Director Krennic challenges the gallant Urso and his family. The wife gets killed in the process, and young Jyn Urso, she's being recovered by Saw Gerrera. And I wanted to talk about the acting in this scene. We have some very heavyweight actors here. We have Matt Mikkelsen, we have Ben Mendelsohn as Director Krennic. We obviously have Forrest Whitaker and Valiant Kane. Introductory scene is crucial for a movie. It's almost like a first page to a novel. What did it accomplish for you personally?
Like you said, it's a heavy scene.
Mm-hmm.
And at first, I was angry, obviously, that, he let his wife take the shot,
Mm-hmm.
And coming from my standpoint, as a man, you would try to protect your wife, your family, do what it is.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, it made me angry and sad all at the same time. And I was excited to know what happened to the little girl after it was all said and done.
Mm-hmm.
What about you? What did you think?
I had a very kind of like reactionary response to it because I was a little bit agitated. I had expectations from that film because the trailer was so immaculate. I was like so thrilled to go back to theaters and watch another Star Wars movie, especially particularly the one that I didn't anticipate for. Like, who would have thought we'd get a storyline like this one?
Yeah.
And for me, it was a well-intended scene because I intellectually absorbed and understood what he was trying to do there. And it's definitely drama as far as the what's in the story is concerned. But how it was delivered was a bit problematic for me. I was glued to Ben Mendelsohn from start to finish in that movie. He's immaculate. In every scene of the film, he has that very antagonizing energy that he projects. Like, I'm the hot
presence.
shit. Yeah, I'm the Imperial. You gotta listen to me. And his bloated ego, he conveys in every damn shot in the film. But as far as the family's reaction, and I can't blame it on the actors because they all did their jobs, something didn't quite connect. And I felt agitated, kind of like preparing myself for another potentially mediocre film. Like, I don't know yet where it's going to go, but I'm already overanalyzing here. That's not a good place to be.
Yeah.
An intro scene is supposed to take you into the picture and you're just enjoying it. The next question I had for you is how, we have all these actors performing on screen. How did it affect your experience watching the rest of the movie? When you move on from a scene, which you said you felt very angry, how did it affect the rest of the picture?
Well, like you said, we didn't know, like I had no idea about this whole story, right? Like all I heard about it was Vader was in it, and it sets up A New Hope and we go from there.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure what to expect really, but like you said, there's so much happening throughout the whole story. What really intrigued me the most is Donnie Yen's character, Chirrut. That whole side of things, I was intrigued in. See, I'm more of the fan that likes the fantasy aspect of the side of the things. Not,
right.
I know that story needs to be told about the characters that are on the ground, right? The back side of it, the Andor, where we're coming from off of Rogue One. Here we are.
Right.
So them kind of characters in that whole missionary, type of thing, that wasn't my feel. But now I get Chirrut involved. And now I like this story, the Wills. Like, what's this about? I wasn't sure about that. That intrigued me to. And then we never really got any more of that. I believe there's maybe a book or two. Not right. So, obviously we kind of know the outcome here, what's going to happen, but how did we get there? So that was interesting. But when it was all said and done and they're all hugging at the end and staring and it's over, I was kind of like, what the hell? Like, okay, so everybody that's it. And then obviously the Vader scene was, epic, and that's a whole other story.
Yeah.
So there was just certain aspects that kept my attention more than others, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's. I think you're kind of punctuating what I felt, but more extremely. I prepared myself for a very mixed reaction to this film, which I ended up with. I overall enjoyed it, but not for the things I really wanted to. I enjoyed it for the visuals, for tremendous action, and for the story that I intellectually understood to be good.
Yeah.
But how it was delivered, the emotional component, the heart and soul, the core of the film was generally not there for me, although there were glimpses where I was like, oh, this is an awesome moment here. This is really good. So it was like I described this particular scene in the detailing of it, especially when Saw Gerrera comes out, "Come, child." It was so freaking awkward and weird from an Oscar-winning actor. I was like, who the hell is directing this? Is this a YouTube fan film? Like, what's going on here? It should have been so much more impactful, grounded, sort of what the movie looks like, but is not portraying. So it became kind of like a rocky viewing. By the end of it, I just completely let go, turned off my brain, and I enjoyed it as a roller coaster ride, and I had a great time with it.
Yeah, just a film.
Yeah. The next scene I also want to go to in Rogue One is the Chirrut Imwe, which you mentioned. There's a scene in there when Jyn Erso, she's already recruited, right? And she's traveling there on Jeddah in this crowd, and she encounters this enigmatic guardian of the Wills, Chirrut Imwe. They have a very small exchange between them, but I thought it was a noteworthy scene. And he mentions to her as she parts, she talks about her Kyber crystal. He says the strongest hearts have the hearts of Kyber. Basically, kind of signifying that she's the light of the story. What did this scene personally mean to you, and how did you react to it?
I just, when that happened, I guess I didn't look at it in a deep way like that. Sometimes I don't grasp them things right off the first bat, I just thought that was setting up for another scene where he was going to be involved. Obviously we get, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was just kind of, he was drawn to her for a purpose, and that was it. And then the story continued.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, your input, I'm sure you've probably, well, I'd like to hear. I kind of have an idea, but I'd like
Yeah.
to hear.
To me, it was, well, I'm very familiar, obviously, with Donnie Yen's, talent and his career. I'm sure as you are, as
Phenomenal.
many.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. Phenomenal actor, phenomenal martial artist,
Yep.
has a huge, huge career of films. It was nice that I didn't recognize Donnie Yen in the film. As he later describes in his interviews, he wanted to add a layer to this character. He wanted to be funny and this unexpected character rather than this stereotypical ass-kicking Asian actor inhibiting, a Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
So on that end, I liked it. But also what rubbed me the wrong way, and maybe this is me overly analytical bent in my mind, and guys, you're welcome to disagree with me all you want, but I felt it was a script writer's and also director's attempt to add a spiritual component to the film, but it rang very hollow. The exchange between them was very brief. I understand what the scene was trying to set up. It just didn't click. It didn't work. I came away from this film discussing with my brother, with my friends. I'm like, Gareth Edwards, all respect to him in the world, is a 2-hour commercial director. It takes a certain amount of skill to convey a spiritual message here in this particular scene, capture this. And so when you're moving away, no matter how long this is, it could have been 5 minutes or 5 seconds, and then you carry on with the picture, but it stays with you. Like, oh my God, what was that all about?
Yeah.
That was my reaction to it. Yeah, it's Steve, it's absolutely.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. I appreciate that.
It's fascinating to me how you and I have like a completely different lens when we look at this. That's exactly was my idea for today's podcast, is like micro detail.
Right.
On a second-to-second basis, like how would you react to this? And when you don't have the ability to do so in a Twitter exchange, and like, well, you're stupid if you didn't like Rogue One. I think it's a great movie. When we get to do this, you and I think we kind of reveal something as fans.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what I was drawn to you in the first place, was just, and I mentioned this to you before, just your thought process and how you express it. And it's totally night and day sometimes from what I'm thinking. But we like it in a similar way most of the time, right?
Yeah.
And it's just it's just great. I appreciate that.
And it's even exciting, I think, personally, to disagree. Yeah. And say like, oh, wow. Yeah, to me, it's a learning experience. Like, oh, this is how another fan interacts with this story. Right. There is no right or wrong way about it. It's not a debate. It's not I'm right, you're wrong kind of thing. It's just us seeing it from different angles.
Yeah.
Next one, Phantom Menace. The breakdown of communications. Before Naboo is under siege and the separatist droid ships land, we see a scene in the palace where Palpatine's Hollow tries to inform the Queen and the retinue of the missing negotiators. The negotiations never took place. And boom, then it unexpectedly cuts off. And the Naboo governor, C.O. Bibble, he reacts. He says, look, our communications disruptions can mean only one thing: invasion. Let's forget for a second all the endless, infinite amount of truckloads of memes associated with that specific scene. How would you characterize the dialogue in it?
It was kind of lax, in a sense, if that makes sense. Like it didn't come off as powerful as it should have. The community, he needed to take more charge than he did. He didn't, like I said, it was just it was dull to me. Yeah. And especially with what was already taking place. Yeah.
And I remember like it was yesterday watching that movie in theaters. I was finishing high school. And the moment he delivers this line, my inner thoughts go, and then I was 18. I was far less critical of cinema. I either like a movie, I don't like it. I can openly say I love it or it's trash, whatever. We'll move on, next movie.
Yeah.
But immediately when he delivers the line, my question is, dude, how do you know? How do you know it's specifically invasion? It could be 15 different reasons. There is no analysis going on there. Your spy network, your radars are not showing anything. He immediately deduces because the movie needs to move along. It needs to move forward. That's all it does.
It just wasn't,
Yeah. It was George's, I would say, perfect defense of when, the prequel hate unfortunately took place and a lot of fans were criticizing, it's too heavy in politics, there's too much dialogue. If George Lucas was convincing the fans that he wrote films for kids, that's the line you do it with. Because you need to be a simple line that kind of explains to a kid what the situation is. Let's keep moving with the picture. But for us adults, for me, I was 18 years old, didn't quite work. And once again, returning to some of the criticism, which some I find valid, some of not. A lot of fans blame the prequels in general at large for too much politics, too much talking. Would you agree or disagree with that sentiment?
I never found it to be an issue for me personally.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a big politic guy in the real world, you know
Right.
what I'm saying? But like I was intrigued by it, to be honest with you, because it's a whole galaxy full of things. Like it's just different than what we live with day to day. Similar, right? There's similar situations, but on a vast scale.
Right.
So I was never really, even when I was younger, like in high school and stuff, it never bothered me, no. Obviously they have moments that, I mean, the dialogue, you know, could be better in certain areas, but.
Right. Yeah, at first I was openly confessing time over and over again. I was a jaded prequel hater. And for the longest time, I thought that my problem with the films was too much politics. But then I stopped for a second, paused, and look at all the expanded universe books I'm reading. Like, what the hell, dude? Those are riddled with politics, and you enjoy that stuff. What the hell? Your criticism doesn't work here. Where are you coming from? And then I started realizing it wasn't the fact that we had politics, rather than how they were portrayed.
Right. That's what I mean. They made it interesting, like Cloak of Deception, great novel.
Yeah, fantastic novel.
Politic heavy, but it's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The original films, A New Hope, begins pretty much at the end of the story. Right, they already got the plans. The Empire already has the Death Star. They're about to blow everybody to smithereens, and this is the last hope. Leia, she's right there with the plans. Just deliver the plans, and we can win. It's right there at the juicy part, right? And we're like, the moment we see those two ships, the Imperial Star Destroyer is chasing Tantive 4, and we're riddled with questions. Hey, dude, what the hell is going on? What is happening here? We're in the middle of the story. Versus prequels, Phantom Menace, which pretty much starts at the beginning, you know, at the once upon a time, and where it opens up this huge canvas of new lore and new storytelling in the beginning, not of just Skywalker, Luke Skywalker, but of the Skywalker bloodline, Anakin Skywalker. Which do you personally prefer more, the beginning of the story or jumping right in the middle of it?
Oh, that is like $1 million question, my friend. How do you really answer that one? Holy shit. Pardon my, I didn't mean to swear.
All good, man. All good.
Yeah.
I'm happy I can challenge you.
Yeah, you knocked me out of my socks, brother. Yeah, I gotta, you know what? I gotta go with the originals. I gotta go with the end. I just, even as a kid and as you get older, that, like you said, the chasing there, 10 and 4, it's still, you're just like, it moves, like you were saying earlier, it moves along at a great pace. It keeps you interested.
Right.
Great sequences, boom, 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 right after another, and it keeps you, you know, the Phantom Man.
You know, for me, I'm gonna give you a surprising answer.
Okay.
It's actually both. I don't have preference of one or the other. It all depends on how it's done. For example, Princess of Mars, Edgar Rice Burroughs, his first novel of the famous John Carter of Mars, the planetary romance stories. They begin at the beginning. How the dude gets to Mars, what happens there, how he encounters all these friends and enemies, blah, blah, blah. Excellent introduction. Where I try to also compare his video games, for example, the Final Fantasy series specifically, is they are the most focused, minimal way of portray a great, powerful story. With minimal text, with minimal dialogue, but you get right to it. And Final Fantasy IV, with this Dragoon Knight, Cecil, and how he starts over here, and he has to destroy a whole village. Powerful in the middle of the story beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, if that could have been an answer, then that would have been mine, sir.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, you can't really choose, but man, I haven't played Final Fantasy IV in a long time.
Oh man, I actually, the one I finished was the DS version, the 3D one.
Yeah, when they read me up.
Tremendous game.
Oh man.
Guys, next one is sort of a cheat movie because it's hard not to love it. Empire Strikes Back. Han and Leia's bickering couple lovebirds hallway scene, right? Obviously, in the beginning of the film, Han attempts to say goodbye to Leia. He's kind of awkward. He doesn't know how to, which leads to the hallway scene. And Leia also can't express her feelings. And she says, "You're a natural leader. We need you." It's like, well, how about you? Which leads to a very funny exchange. It's like, "Afraid I want to give you a goodbye kiss." And she's like, "I would rather kiss a Wookiee." And then he follows with, "I could arrange that. He could use a kiss." Very, very curious scene going on there. Is humor timeless, and has the scene stood the test of time for you personally?
In Star Wars? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think their relationship is like there's nothing that matches it. Okay. And it's not just because I'm a Star Wars fan. I just want to touch on this a second. You know what I mean? Because it reminds me of high schoolish kind of love, but on the adult side of things, if you get what I'm trying to say there. So it's like perfect. It's cute. I remember some of them scenes with my wife. She was watching it. I was having to watch it. And when they get pressed up, when they finally do kiss, she grabbed me. She's like, "They're being sassy on here."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Well, yeah, that's their relationship. It's hot and cold."
Yeah.
But in films having humor overall, if you're going there with it, well, yeah, I think even serious films need a little humor. It's just, it helps, it helps the story. It keeps you interested.
Right. Yeah, I think this scene is timeless to this day because how it's written, how it's performed, it's a conglomeration of all things involved in the scene. Every piece of it is so well fine-tuned that the line delivery, especially, right, if you enjoy stand-up comedians, timing is everything in comedy. It's an art form. And everything there is delivered so well that to this day, no matter who watches it, you can't help but laugh. Because in a way, it's a scene portraying teenagers, even though Han Solo is 30. Because when you fall in love, you fall in love. It's always awkward. You're kind of feeling for this person. She's beautiful, she's smart, she's courageous, but you just don't know how to say the damn thing. And because of that, it creates such a realistic and believable friction between two people who are so obviously in love that it's basically timeless.
Yep.
Now compare this humor to prequel trilogy and sequel trilogy.
Oh, excuse me. Well, in the prequel trilogy, we get Jar Jar. Was supposed to be kind of the comedic relief of, which that he got a lot of slack for that, which I never minded that either. I thought it was fine. In the end, these were made for kids. It was supposed to be fun, enjoyment, family.
Right.
Was the overall intention. So the original trilogy's comedy scenes or how they come off is they're none of the sequel trilogy or the prequel trilogy doesn't match it at all, in my opinion, my thoughts. The others have their moments, sure, but not like the original trilogy.
Yeah, I remember my huge irritation specifically with Phantom Menace because I clearly remember loving Attack of the Clones so much more than the original film, and Revenge of the Sith even more. I actually came out of both of those films actually satisfied. I was like, all right, cool. All right, this is the Star Wars for a new generation. The humor, though, felt Jar Jar is a slapstick. They're literal farts in the Phantom Menace, literal ones, like not even making this stuff up, right?
Yeah.
And Boss Nass was with his mouth doing this crazy shit, and I'm watching this. And I just can't believe not just the type of humor, but the dissonance between the artistic style of the original trilogy and this trilogy. And then fans could say, well, Ben, you're just too critical. You don't understand that George went for a different style of storytelling. Fine, that's all fine and good. If that's the argument you're using to me, then so could be said about the sequel trilogy. It's just a different style of delivery, right?
Well, plus I'll say this, I'll throw this in there, technology came a long way too, and what they could play with, on the industrial like magic side of things, we'll say, so that played a factor, from the original.
Mhm.
Like you said, Boss Day, and his tongue's going everywhere, and food's
Mhm.
coming out of his mouth, and yeah, I mean, like that was
Because Stevie, as digital actors, I didn't mind any of performers on screen. Jar Jar, Boss Nass, Watto. They're
yeah,
phenomenal looking creature designs even to this day. It's the human aspect of it that just felt so dissonant from the original trilogy.
yeah.
It just
I
did
could,
it. Yeah.
I could see what you're saying. The feel,
The
we
feel
just
of it.
didn't feel it. Yeah,
Right, right.
I got what you're saying. I
And
feel
a
it.
lot of it also didn't land, just like in sequel trilogy. I felt that J.J. Abrams had some perfect timing in some scenes, like the BB-8's little lighter thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
When we in the Millennium Falcon, that was phenomenal. But when they start overdoing it, like as is typical of new Marvel age, kind of like Hollywood, Disney movies, it's just becomes tiring very fast.
Yeah, I mean Finn, like I need to watch them again because I've been talking about them here and there. The
Hmm.
sequel trilogy, give them another shot, another fair shake.
Hmm.
But but yeah, I mean it had its moments. But Finn, when Finn was trying to be funny, some
Yeah,
of the stuff that happened to him, I was kind of like, I'm just like, what the hell is that?
yeah, yeah.
You know,
Next quick scene, very shortly, also in Empire Strikes Back, is Lando Calrissian, the traitor. And obviously, it's a scene where after he betrays Han, he visits Han and Leia in their detention room, and he says, "Look, I negotiated for getting Leia. That's the very least I could do. And sorry, but I got my own problems." Kind of like
yeah,
the cape is like over the shoulder. I want to specifically talk about the casting of Billy D. Williams, his talent, and why George Lucas picked him, because he does something terrible in the film. He betrays his friend's trust. And, he plays a not very likable, very shifty character up to the point where he actually has a change of heart and he becomes the official good guy. My question to you is, does Billy D. Williams fall into the stereotypical black actor slash bad guy trope?
ooh, I get, in that time era, I don't know. Billy D.
Mm-hmm.
Williams, fantastic. He fit
Mm-hmm.
the role to a T. He played the character, just like Carl Weathers, another phenomenal
Right.
black male lead act. Great, they're
Mm-hmm.
phenomenal. So I don't, yeah, he was supposed to kind of portray that, I guess, in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I'm trying to say there? Like he was the way he looked, that vibe, that feel, trade him.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe in Shadows of the, I know this is kind of going off the subject, but doesn't he discuss that, why he did that a little farther? If I remember, I thought in one of the expanded universe, but while we're talking about the films,
Mm-hmm. So
yes and no.
he is sort of is and isn't stereotypical.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. See, for me, he does not fall into that stereotype, and that's precisely because of the way that the character is written. He's a flawed human being. He's not this bastard, disgusting human being that there's nothing for him but contempt. He is a likable person. Why? He has charm, he has elegance, he is a lot more good with ladies than Han ever will be.
yeah.
Right? The way he approaches Leia, he's a gentleman, right? But
He's
then
smooth.
he's smooth talker. Then he does this terrible thing. But then there's a chance for us to stick with the film and we see his complete transformation, his turnaround. See, he's not a stereotype at all. And Billy D. Williams doesn't portray him like he needs to represent a particular culture of people, which I have nothing against.
No,
He
right. Neither do
freaking
I.
he embodies the role. He rocks this character. He has so much freaking testosterone, charisma, sexuality on screen. You can't help but just be taken over by his performance. And once again, I can't speak for the audience in 1981. I
Right.
was born that year. I didn't react to the film in that time frame. But I can't imagine somebody looking at him, look, they just hired this dude, because they wanted to portray another stereotypical black actor as potentially bad person, even though he's not it. He just does something bad in the film.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true. And I wasn't trying to say that I have nothing against anybody's
Right.
race, creed, color.
Right.
I love everybody. I'm positive vibes, man. We need that in this world.
Yeah, but we also want to conduct like an honest conversation. We don't
yeah.
want to kiss up. We don't want to raise our flags like, yeah, we support you. Just an honest adult conversation, what this whole thing is about. And obviously this particular part of the discussion is representation in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Right? How you diverse group of actors of ethnicities and cultural backgrounds portray characters on screen. That's what I wanted to touch on. And do you feel that Lando Calrissian, Billy D. Williams represents an inclusive Star Wars fandom for the 1981 when he was portrayed? Do you feel that fans embraced him or not?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, like you said, he comes off good, smooth. Then he does something terrible.
Mm-hmm.
But then redemption, right? The whole story at the end is about there's a chance of redemption, right?
Mm-hmm. How would you compare his casting to the modern attempts to diversify Star Wars?
You're gonna have to explain that. You get a little
Like, for example, we have Johnny Boyega, a tremendous actor portraying Finn. We have a Latin actor, Oscar Isaac, portraying Poe Dameron. We have Rose Tico, right? She's portraying this Asian actress. How would you compare Billy D. Williams and what he stands for Star Wars compared to the newer cast?
I feel like it was represented better in the back in the 1981.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, it felt more real, if that makes sense.
It totally makes sense to me personally.
That's kind of where I'm at.
I'm agreeable with you. And guys, it wasn't a premeditated question that I'm answering in the recording for you guys. I don't know how Steve feels about this.
Yeah, right.
I just felt, yeah.
Oh, no, sorry. Go ahead.
I felt that J.J. Abrams, Rian Johnson, all of them are coming from, I personally feel, from the right place. And obviously, we have to take into account the cultural divide and cultural strife and the need for representation that we have. Absolutely. I'm 100% on board with it. But you either have an organic kind of like role portrayal that everybody embraces based on its strength, based on its power. But then you have something like based on the fact, like we just need to, and you pop the character on the screen and they have no validity, they have no agency, they have no interesting parts. And then when fans criticize that, then you sometimes might be labeled like, oh, you're just not down with the representation. It ain't it. The first and foremost thing that I imagine you and I would criticize first and foremost, what is this character doing for the culture it tries to represent in the film?
Yeah.
That's my thing with it. And we're going to return to this later on.
That's good.
Yeah. Force Awakens. Poe Dameron's quick verbal battle with Kylo Ren. Who talks first? I talk first. You talk first, right? The First Order attacks a village on Jakku, and the Resistance pilot, Poe Dameron, is taken prisoner. Hey, where's the map? They need to find the map with Luke Skywalker. Who talks first? I talk first. You talk first. So we have opened up with a very powerful and dramatic scene, followed by a funny exchange between two characters. And you did point out earlier that you need a comedic relief to kind of like break away the tension a little bit and allow the audience to breathe a little bit before you move on with the drama again. Talk about Oscar Isaac's performance and how he delivers those lines. Did the progression in this scene from drama to comedy felt natural to you?
Absolutely, 100%. 100%. I love that. That scene was funny. And it like the first time you see it, you don't know what's going on. But then there's like you said, and I touched on earlier, there's a perfect spot for that. Boom. And it's good. And then right back to seriousness. But I thought I bought it. I'm like, this guy's cocky. He's got he don't give a shit who's in front of him. It's like, go ahead, pal.
Yeah.
And that the kind of cowboy thing too.
Right. Han Solo, but not quite Han Solo.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's this scene for me, it rang all the wrong alarm bells. I'm like, oh my God, no, what am I sitting for? Is this going to be another Phantom Menace experience? I was so freaking worried, man. My booty was tied, bro. I was like, oh my God, what the hell is going on here? Like, it just felt so out of freaking place. Can't we wait a little bit? You literally massacred the village. Like a random stormtrooper is doing this on Finn's helmet. Like we see streaks of blood. And then he's like, who talks first? I was like, oh my God, no. JJ, please don't do me dirty like this. What's going to happen? I felt very agitated in that scene. Hopefully it kind of repaired. We got to a narrow and straight road, but it was very worrisome scene in there.
Okay.
Then we move to another scene in the Force Awakens. Rey's lightsaber. Han takes Rey and Finn to Maz Kanata's castle, right on Takodana. Rey hears a mysterious voice leading her to the cellar. She opens a chest. She sees, obviously, Luke Skywalker's lightsaber in there. And the scene is followed by a vision. There's Knights of Ren pop off here, some kind of burning temple, voices, past and the future intertwined in one scene. What was your first immediate emotional response to it?
Well, I mean, it's Luke's lightsaber. You hear, like, I think you get, Ahsoka, they might have said voice, Kanan Jarrus was used somewhat, you know what I mean? She gets into the flashbacks, and, I didn't know what was going to happen, obviously, but I mean, it was exciting. It's like, okay, there's something that I remember that touches me, in a certain way.
I felt like a 6-year-old kid all over again.
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, we got this classical motif. The hero descends into the underworld and she receives a vision. Obviously, she denies the quest in the beginning because of her exchange with Maz Kanata,
right.
But she is inadvertently touched by this vision to a degree where she can't escape it anymore. She's pulled into these galactic events, which she was kind of like, I'm going on a journey, kind of like a hobbit in the beginning of the film, right? She wants to break away from her life on Jakku. And here you are, lady. That's what it is. And when we see the lightsaber, when we see all the voices in the background, we see her past and how Knights of Ren can potentially work into the story. We're not discussing the sequels in general, just this movie. It was a world of imagination opened up before you, classical motifs being touched upon, and infinite possibilities of what this sequel trilogy could have been. Because, like, dude, where we go from here? It is it's like it's just, you're barraged with these images that you're trying to parse and figure out as the story is going along.
Yeah.
Next one. I know we're a little bit on the time limit here because Benjamin didn't do his timing, scheduling.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do we got?
Pumping iron, be honest. You were pumping iron.
Yeah. What are we at? Do we have another 15 minutes at least?
Yeah, of course.
All right, next one.
All right.
Solo. Han Solo's name, the christening of Han Solo, right? He's in trouble. He desperately needs to flee Corellia. He wants to join the Empire to be the greatest pilot, right? Hey, officer, what's your name?
Yep.
Do you have any people? I don't have people. I'm alone. He doesn't label himself. It's the officer who says, Solo. Han Solo. The film itself is a semi-origins story. It kind of tells earlier days of Han Solo, but doesn't quite reveal everything about his past. He's already a loner in the story. He's a thief trying to get by. He has a girlfriend. There's a whole bunch of baggage attached to that. A lot of things happen to him. That's the point.
Yeah.
Did you feel like this christening of Han Solo was suitable for the character?
Yeah, I didn't mind it. I mean, Aaron played a phenomenal. He did a great job, in my opinion, as the actor to portray a young Han Solo. I thought he was great.
Yeah, I loved him too.
So yeah, I mean, I thought it worked. It was quick, like you said. It's just you get a little bit of his backstory. I know it's separate, it's on a different timeline, the canon of things, but I like both paths. I like the expanded universe and legends and stuff too, a lot. And so, yeah, it worked for me. It was quick, boom. He was excited. There was and it's basically he was just trying to get off. He was trying to get off the planet.
And the name kind of stuck.
And then, yeah.
Okay. Can you imagine? Because Lawrence Kasdan obviously wrote the movie, the guy behind Empire Strikes Back, right? He wrote, all these Star Wars films. Can you imagine a scenario where Kasdan and also George Lucas actually intended for Solo to be named, maybe not specifically this way, but in this sort of kind of like whimsical, unimportant kind of like, that's how he became Solo? Do you feel that resonates with what George Lucas would have done?
When you put it like that, yeah, possibly. I mean, he was just a rough smuggler, kind of, a roughneck kid, supposedly. We don't get it all on this side of things, So yeah, I mean, I think so. I don't see. It was more about that the Skywalkers trying to take. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
So I think I'm kind of rambling about it all over the place.
No, it looks like you're okay with it. You just
Yeah,
your reaction alone says it all. You're like, okay, where's the rest of the film?
yeah.
That's
I
how he was
mean,
named. I didn't mind it either, but I also felt it wasn't necessary because in an origin story, and I kind of made an argument before asking the question that it's a semi-origin story, not quite.
right.
You don't need that. You don't need to explain or demystify or unmask everything. It was the biggest problem I had with prequels, where it tried to give a face to Darth Vader, rationalize his action, and explain to me why a villain who was once a good guy now became a villain. I don't care. He's a villain. He's a bad guy. It's not about his redemption. It's about Luke Skywalker who redeems him. For me personally, I'm not trying to say that's the right answer. That's how I see it from my personal bias. Same with Han. He is Han Solo. Why is it important how the tag came along? Why are you adding this? Can't you wrap this character in this sort of mystery and mystique that I can still interact with? That's why I love literature. But you don't explain to me what your hero looks like exactly. If you're going to keep barraging me with how beautiful and gorgeous and sexy your female character is, I don't care by the 10th page. Like, what else do they have to offer?
I've heard that before. Yeah. You know, the next book, you know.
next 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 scene in the Solo. Obviously, Donald Glover portrays Lando Calrissian. Everything you've heard about me is true, right? There's a scene where
That was pretty good.
Kira introduces Han to Lando Calrissian, and Donald Glover rocking the crap out of that role. He's like, this is Sabak. Not Sabak, mind you, Sabak. And he's like, Han. It's actually Han, right? And he's like, I'm Captain Lando Calrissian, and everything you've heard about me is true. How do you feel about recasting fan favorite characters?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love it. I don't. Why would you not?
Yeah.
And he played that character to a T as well. They nailed it with that casting. Perfect.
Yeah.
He was the comedic relief. He was strong at. I mean, oh my goodness, my wife was laughing so hard sometimes with the interactions there, with how sassy they were being with the droid. You know, it was funny.
Yeah, I was totally sold. I was worried at first because I am a Billy D. Williams official simp.
Oh yeah.
I simp for him. Like, since I was a kid, there was never 3 Star Wars heroes. It was always 4 for me. That's how I saw it. That's how I remember. Without Lando, there is no Star Wars for me.
The big 4.
Yeah, the big 4. Do you feel what serves a story more? Emulating the original performance, obviously Billy D, or an original new interpretation of the character?
Well, let me ask you this real quick. I got
Sure.
one for you. Okay, because you brought this, you mentioned this before, the recasting. How do you feel about the deep fake stuff now? Like, would you prefer, like, they use, like, if they made another Solo, or another Solo story, Solo 2, okay, we'll say, would you prefer they kept the same actors, or would you prefer if they deep faked Harrison Ford, kind of like they're doing now with Indiana Jones?
2 things about deepfaking. You can't deny the art and craftsmanship that goes into it.
Well, right.
Right.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And as a nerd, you look at this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Luke in Boba Fett. Holy crap! It's bizarre, believable.
Wow.
Give it 2-3 more years tops. Yeah, man.
When we first seen him in Mando, I was.
Yeah, I mean, we have yet to see the new Indiana Jones, how they're going to do it there. But
Right.
with each year, it looks scary realistic. As far as the integrity of the role, the character, and the actors who originally portrayed them, I feel it's. I'm not going to go on the tangent and say, oh, it's disrespectful. I understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to recapture the magic, the spirit of the character. I personally feel, I don't have super strong feelings about it. I just don't feel it's the right way. I feel it's more correct to give new actors enter the role, reinterpret the character, because it gives them vitality and keeps those characters enduring. And more, dude, nobody will ever forget that Harrison Ford created Han Solo as much as George Lucas did.
Oh yeah,
nobody
100%.
will forget that Mark Hamill is Luke Skywalker. Come on, right? But at the same time, when you like, even the stand-in actor for both Boba Fett and Mandalorian that portrays Luke, look at his face.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
90% right there. Like, can you give this dude a small Luke Skywalker role and see how he does?
Yeah. Now, I'll counter that with I agree with you. I like how they just do it, like just very 5 minutes here,
Yeah,
little scene here. Okay, like that, I can deal with that. I agree that yes, we can't beat Father Time. Nobody can. You
right,
know, Luke Skywalker will always be Mark Hamill. But
right.
yes, I would love to see a new actor. I just wanted to ask about the deep fake thing because I mean I enjoy it, I like it, but
Yeah,
I
I'm
would
not a
yes,
favor of it. Not huge on it.
periodically I like it, just very here and there,
Mm,
touch and go with it. That's what I like. I don't want to see okay, a branch off Luke Skywalker
right.
series and they're deep faking the whole thing. No, I want to see the gentleman
I
that
respect your opinion, anybody who enjoys that, because I understand the sentiment. I kind of like sometimes brush this off and get like emotional with people on Twitter, but you want to ask my sincere thoughts, dude.
yeah.
If that's what you like, by all
Oh,
means.
right.
For
Right.
me, the problem in Mandalorian season 2 was not the fact that it was deep fake, but how unfinished it looked. It undermined the entire scene, which was supposed to be emotional. Because I mean, when he takes out that hood, what do you see? You see
Well,
this?
yeah.
Like, it's I don't know how to describe it. It just looks flat. The lighting is wrong. The hair is wrong. It just didn't feel right. It looked like a CGI puppet.
Yeah. Well,
That's
see,
what brought it down.
well, see, that's the first time they were playing with it. I thought it looked
Yeah.
great. Got me because when I got back into the
Right.
fandom in Star Wars, right? Like I didn't know nothing about Mando. I watched the 2 seasons were out. I had no idea.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm watching it. I heard there's a Mando. There's a new Baby Yoda.
Yeah.
I'll check it out. So yes, it got me emotionally very much. So now this kind of goes back to when we were talking about the original trilogy in the prequels and how like the animation and things was kind of sloppy. And then it picked up in the Clone Wars, like you said, Revenge of the Sith. So they get better over time.
Right.
Right. So I appreciate, yeah, it's amazing what they're doing.
Yeah,
with
you
it
can't
now.
deny the craftsmanship. You
No.
can't not give your respect to the artist that worked on it. Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. They're, yeah, phenomenal job. But like I said, I would rather, I agree with you to the point. Yes, let new actors.
Yeah.
Here you go. Here's
That's what keeps the story alive. When you don't tinker with it, when you start leaving everything as is, it's gonna grow over with like spider webs and cobwebs, and you just that's it. It'll die. It'll become stale.
Right.
I know. Once again, guys, I can ask a million questions like this. I think it was a very good first experiment of you and I diving into detail like this. I think it was to be a really good thing to riff off and actually continue and examine other scenes, because I do know you had a very busy day today, but you also wanted to bring some scenes into light for us to kind of like digest and see how we both react to it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's another topic.
If you don't mind, very quick last couple of questions, and I'll let you go, Steven. And once again, thank you so much for joining me today. I love talking to you, man. I love your thoughts. I love how genuine you are, and I love how we can bring to the surface these questions that bother us and not be antagonistic or disrespectful to anyone. We love everybody in the fandom.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate you having me on. I'm glad to be back. I like how you and I mesh in a sense that it's like opposites attract in a sense, right? You get really deep philosophy. I can't even say the word right now. I'm dry mouth.
Philosophical.
There you go. Philosophical. You know, and technical with the way you look at things, where I come kind of at it as like a small open world kind of sense. I don't, it's great. And I just appreciate your opinions, your thoughts, and you make me see things differently.
Appreciate it. Before I get my questions asked, you're hearing it, right?
Oh yeah.
Let it pass real quick. Yeah, just two more questions, guys, and I'll let Mr. Steve. Oh my God.
That's all right, brother. We're okay. Is the bat signal out there for you to get your suit on and go? I know you like Star Wars. I said, is the bat signal going on out there for you to get out there?
The bat signal? Yeah, because Gotham is supposed to be New York, right?
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, we're back on track. Do you think it's the small details or the grand picture that conveys a memorable story?
Both.
Mm,
You need both. Like you
right.
said, just the story. Okay, we got the story, and then they just put them little pieces in there, like we were talking about with Ray's lightsaber. Perfect.
Hmm.
That was, well, it's kind of a bigger detail, but just the way getting there was just, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I feel you need both.
Yeah. Star Wars is all about scale. It has to be larger than life.
Yeah.
It has to be epic, right? It has to have that transformational period. And like, oh my God, this is where we started, and this is where our heroes end. And I almost like now that I asked this question, it's almost the micro details are the vehicle of how you get to your large story.
Yeah.
If sequentially you can convince me that what I'm looking at is believable and heartfelt, I'll buy the full story. How does John Williams' music fit into the franchise, and how does it affect Star Wars on a scene-to-scene basis?
I know I talked about we on talking about other movies. We were talking one time about like the soundtrack and the things. I mean, it does play a factor in the movies. Okay, now
Mm-hmm.
specifically Star Wars, it just I was thinking about this the last time we talked about it, and when I rewatched some of the stuff at night, I throw it on and just listen in the background. Right, I'm sure a lot of Star Wars fans do that.
Mm-hmm.
So it adds so much to the scene depending on what's happening, or it gets bigger over time through the scene.
Mm-hmm.
Like Duel of the Fates, for example, very soft, slow, and then as
Yeah,
the intensity of the scene's going on, that dude's doing his thing,
magic.
conducting, and they're
Mm.
playing,
Yeah. I sort of started realizing, like, of listening on podcasts and programs, how conductors and composers talk about producing scores. It's almost like a language of its own. When there is no dialogue, the picture and the sound, the music specifically, informs you what you're supposed to feel. I absolutely love Ray's theme in Force Awakens. I love it when she like goes down the dune thing and
sliding
like
there.
dun, 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 dun. Every time I see it, it gets me, man. Forget the rest of the movie. Just that scene and that music is a stroke of genius, and John Williams has not lost it.
No, he's fantastic. But
Yeah.
I will argue to some,
Yes.
I feel the Lord of the Rings soundtrack score, whatever you want to call it, is top tier. I mean, that's beautiful. It's magic.
It is magic.
It's like that's just magic. You can't.
Yeah.
That's on. Look up the definition of magic. Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Yes, I'm planning on buying that $200 Blu-ray
Oh,
4K
that set.
set. Yeah.
My
I'm just gonna
friend.
sell my left kidney and
Yeah,
go with it.
I know they keep doing this stuff to us. They're
Yeah.
making these epic box sets and these
And we buy
collections.
them.
It's like,
It's
what the hell?
that's what life is about. Like sell your kitten, like sell your
Yeah.
child. I need that box set.
So yeah, I like that question because it makes you think even in other films.
Yeah.
It's funny what you can pick up from Star Wars and take it to another film and try to compare or hear. It's cool. I learned kind of doing that from you. I just want to say that. So
Mhm. Steve, last question. It's sort of tricky, but please try not to think on it so much. Just give me like whatever first comes to mind. You ready?
apples.
What's the most important scene in the entire Star Wars franchise to you?
Oh my God. Well, come on, man.
Sorry. One scene to rule them all.
Oh my goodness sakes. Benjamin, this
It's not hard, man. It's not hard. Pick your
well,
favorite movie. Pick the part that makes you near like teary eyed or something. Just, you got this. I have faith.
I gotta say, when Luke leaves to go rescue and Empire Strikes Back, he leaves his training. They're telling him not to go.
Mm.
He wants to go rescue. He can feel it. He's got to be there. And that's just personally, that's just who I would be as a human being. Like if my family was like, if somebody needed me, I'm going. That's just,
Yeah.
and that's what I feel. That's a touching thing for me.
Dude, and then go and tell the Last Jedi critics that their criticism is not valid. That's freaking Luke they wanted. Man, I get it.
Yeah.
That's what they wanted. They have not seen Mark Hamill since freaking 1983 portraying this character. Like, come on, you get once in a lifetime opportunity. How come you're not giving this to me? It's just me, Benjamin, and my scrambled mind who was like, you know what? I had Luke up to here through all of the book readings. I'm prepared for something new. But I recognize that there's a fan standing behind the shoulder right next to me with his ticket in his teeth. He's like, bro, give me the ultimate Luke. And then he just disappears to your own kid. And my friend William, who's sitting right next to me, he's like, are you freaking kidding me? That's it? Like, he was pissed, man.
Yeah, I get it.
I get it.
Both ways, yeah.
Yeah.
But like that, just to me, you know, like
Mhm.
I'm off of feelings and emotions. Like that's how I can really grasp things. You know, everybody's got their own way of. So yeah, just I'm curious. What's yours?
It will always be one scene which I don't have to think about ever. It's the Return of the Jedi, Luke versus Vader, that particular shot right before he lops off Vader's arm. We're going through this scene and the magical music is playing and they're fighting one another. That one scene embodies the entire struggle of good versus evil to me. And that's the staying power of Star Wars. It's not when you muddy the black and white waters and you start exploring and, you know, rationalizing its villains, but there's a other side to it. But this is what the Imperialists thought on the desk. No, it's good versus evil. It's absolutes clashing with one another. And in that scene, you see the transformation of the hero. You see all of his fears, all of his misgivings, all the terror that he has to confront, not for himself, for his sister. Remember, he's sitting there, his face is divided into two, light and dark, and Vader, the devil, is tempting him. If you're not going to convert, I'm going to take your sister. I'm going after your family. And all of that represents for Luke, all that rage and aggression that he unleashes upon Vader, and then is able to rein it in.
Yeah.
And then, remember when Luke would never throw away his lightsaber, he's like,
yeah,
I will never give in. And that's the ultimate victory. And the ultimate, if you want to look at Star Wars as a parallel to Christian faith, that's the ultimate crucifixion, the self-sacrifice of the hero. Even though Luke doesn't physically die, he's prepared to die. And that's the mystery, that's the magic that brings Vader back, that turns him back into the Jedi. And that's why, to me, it's never the fallen redemption of Darth Vader. It's always Luke's journey. That's his achievement. That's his accomplishment. And when you start expanding and expanding the story, which also I understand the impulse to do so, you inadvertently dilute the power of that one scene of saying, but no, this guy was once a good dude, and that's what happened. No. Good versus evil. It's over the top. That's not how real life works. But this is what we raised generations upon generations of kids through the power of myth, of absolute extremes clashing with one another. Yeah.
That's good. That's deep.
Steve, can we do like 4 or 5 more of these podcasts where we just analyze details in the scenes? I'm down. I'm down for that.
Yeah, this is fun. I'm having a great time. I got a few more minutes.
I don't know. Do you have a question? I ran out of mine.
No, that's all I got. And I didn't.
I think once we,
it's been like a lot of people have been reaching out and getting back to me and trying to set stuff up, and it's tough when you got to work around different schedules.
Yeah.
I don't mean to.
No, just work around mine. Forget everybody else. Yeah. Matt Wilkins, Star Wars Theory. No matter who calls, if Disney calls, you just tell like, look, I have a more important schedule to keep with Mr. Benjamin here, Ben Wise, old Russian Kenobi, whatever. Yeah, we're gonna do this first.
I was gonna ask you if you think the Kenobi series had added any to the story.
If I liked the show?
Well, no, like if you think it added, if it felt good in the placement to the storyline there between Revenge.
It didn't do anything forget me. I'm extracting me, in my opinion, out of the picture. That show is 100% not for me.
Okay.
I said it to Josh and Jimmy, the guys I used to live stream with. I said, guys, I want the show to do right by you, by prequel fans. That's the standards that I'm going to measure it on. And I'm going to infinitely criticize it more because everything that's is staked on,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
huge
okay.
legacy cast that is coming back. And this is the thing. To the last moment before Kenobi decides to help, he does absolutely nothing but what he's told. There's no transformation going on there. Up to a point where it's hunkered in that bunker and Leia goes on and tries to fix with a little droid there, something. He is reluctant in the first half of the show, and there's nothing in the world that moves his rock, that motivates him to action. And then suddenly, through the magic of plot armor, he decides to help everyone. It's a completely shallow, surface level, super. Kenobi's unrecognizable in that show. It had absolutely, and I cheered for Ewan McGregor coming back. I was so happy that Hayden Christensen was reprising his role because I rooted for him. I enjoyed his performance in prequels, and that show did nothing for me. Zero.
Zip. Right? No. Oh, that's
I don't
good.
even want to say
appreciate that.
bad. It's just empty.
No, I'm disappointed that they didn't put more money to it, basically, or whatever, because when it comes down to it, there's great producers, writers, directors, everybody that works behind the scenes. Hats off to them, because that's got to be tough.
Of course, yeah.
But like money talks. That's the reality of life. Everything works around money, and I just feel Disney didn't put enough money towards it. I'm glad. I just see parts of it, and I add that to the story. Okay, that's kind of how I do it.
Can I disagree?
Sure.
John Carter of Mars, Disney, I believe, 2009 or something like that. $250 million budget. Biggest names, film directors, animation directors, writers attached, Oscar winners. Had all the goddamn time in the world to develop that movie. For me, I'll be honest with you. Here is Star Wars, and here's John Carter of Mars. Edgar Rice Burroughs is the candle that lit George Lucas's imagination. I mean, just read the first book, Princes of Mars. It's all there. Dune is there. Star Wars is there. You think it's in that book. And I felt emotionally and physically violated. It came out of that movie, man. I was like, my brother, once again, he's like, it wasn't so bad. Don't dramatize, Ben. You're so emotional. I'm like, Jesus, sweet Moses, man. What is this? The money, the budget, the time, nothing could have guaranteed that success. Because to me, I'm convinced, the older I get, the more I'm convinced, filmmaking is an alchemic process. Stars needs to magically align in the skies for something to happen, like X-Men's Logan movie to come out, or Joker to come out, that every single scene is undeniable. It's undeniable. It doesn't go like it. You can't validate with your critique with it. You look at it, it's undeniable. It's in your face. Something needs to happen. The greatest directors from Spielberg to Kubrick have all failed. You can't request them to produce a timeless classic upon demand, no matter how talented they are. That's why I can accept prequels. That's why I can accept Kenobi. That's why I accept Book of Boba Fett. Not because somebody tried to demean the stuff that I love. It just didn't work out. It's tough, man.
Yeah, no, that's true too. But I mean, even the talented people, like, I'm not saying it's money. Obviously it's the talent there, but like to make things seem real. Like I know they did a lot of work in the volume with them shows that people talk about, it makes them feel small and very tight and and then you get Andor, which, they're going back to locations, so I mean, and things were shot during the pandemic and the whole world went to hell. So I mean, yeah, but like to me, a smart mind with the right money and the few good people that they need behind them pushing it is going to make it happen. And I feel like the pandemic, not enough money, location, who knows? I don't, that's just my speculation that some of these shows didn't work. And obviously some of the writing wasn't the greatest.
Very short, very quickly. It's that one episode where Spielberg talks about how he used to sneak onto the Hollywood's filmmaking, territories. The boulevard, and how Hitchcock noticed them, right? And he said, put this kid behind the camera. Spielberg is like 20 years old. And the moment that Spielberg got behind the camera, Hitchcock said, leave this kid alone. He sees it. He knows it. He has the mind. Leave them the heck alone. Let him do his thing. That's what you need. It's not the money. It's not the budget. It's not the big name. It's that quirky mind, right? Where you sleep, dream, and shit filmmaking.
Right.
And then when you get behind the camera, it's like, how can I get the best out of that every second, every foot of film to convince the audience that what they're seeing is real?
Yeah. No, right. No, I agree. You need but also that money to me, well, drives it to a point.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree there. Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you want to discuss Kenobi at length, if that's something emotional that touches you, if you can prepare scenes, details, questions for our next podcast, I'll be more than happy. I love when people ask me questions more than asking them.
Sure. Yeah. I like it. Like, as I listen to more people and what their thoughts on, I see it now as okay, it's just the story wasn't good. And
don't let me or anyone else tell you what you like.
No, right. I still love it because it just brings me back, and it's good to see these actors, like we were talking about before. One day they're gonna, be older, not here, not being able to act or do, and so we're lucky, we're fortunate enough to get to see them, So,
at least be appreciative.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. You don't like it, like, don't hold the door. Let somebody else enjoy it.
Right.
Well, guys, this has been our podcast. It was tons of fun talking to Steve. Once again, I love the way you think. I love the way you express yourself. We'll hopefully try to do this, schedule something very quickly soon. Maybe touch upon some shows, Mandalorian, Kenobi, Book of Boba Fett, all in hopes of trying to show you guys how we think about Star Wars on a micro level, from scene to scene, from words to word, dialogue to dialogue, how these things interact with our minds and why we end up loving or hating one thing or another.
Yep.
Steve, once again, mention quickly your channel, where fans can find you, and we'll wrap this up.
Well, I'm on YouTube at StevieB11, and you can find me on Instagram. I post like excerpts from books that I've been reading. I'm kind of reading from the timeline, the legends, just what's in the book, going through it, talking about it, posting it on their pictures, and then some of my collection of toys and other things that I got stored away. So check me out on there as well. That's StevieBYT.
All right, guys, I'll drop all the links in the video description as usual, so please go support Steve's channel. If you enjoyed this podcast, please like the video, sub to the channel. Don't miss out our future conversations. I'm pretty sure we'll have a lot to offer you guys. We'll see you all later. Take care, everyone.
See ya.